Welcome to the Scottish Property Podcast. This is a show where we aim to educate, inspire and entertain through real life stories and interviews from people in the Scottish property community.
As always, thanks for listening and give us a follow on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Remember to join us at our monthly networking events on the first Wednesday of every month. Tickets are available on our website. So without further ado, we'll just cut straight into this week's podcast. Welcome to the Scottish Property Podcast. Vikki Ridler, delighted to see you here in the studio. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Brilliant. Obviously, you are a famous estate agent over TikTok. You know, you're just saying there, you go into the local supermarket and that, and they know you as the girl off TikTok, or they get that estate agent girl and stuff like that. But as well as that, you help us out with our Edinburgh networking event as well.
Yes, I do.
So we appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
No,
Big
you're
thank
welcome.
you. We'll take this opportunity to thank you straight away. But yeah, I just been following you now for a while on social media, and obviously I built up a wee connection just through the phone. So
feel like you know me.
it's great to have you here in person, and I'm really interested to hear your story, because everyone's got a story to tell and how they got into the property industry. And I think that there's a lot of people, a lot of our listeners who are interested in actually becoming involved in the estate agency as well. So we'll dive into that as well, and tips that you could maybe offer, you know, the younger people that are getting involved, because you've done this for a long time. How long have you been estate agency now?
19 years.
19 years.
So a combination between both sales and lettings, but 19 long years, yeah.
Brilliant. And just tell us, you know, right from the start, where did it all begin for you then?
So when I was 16, I was supposed to go to the police. And what happened was there was a 4-month grace period before I was going to Tillyallen. And my mum told me at that time, well, you're not sitting about the house, you need to go out, you need to go and get a job. And at that point, I thought, I'll just go and work in an office, you know, like an office junior, make the teas and the coffees and everything else. And I ended up going into Slater Hoggenhausen at 16. And within a week, I was like, wow, I am not leaving. Like everything about it, like I love learning, and you'll see that as I go through the story about where I've got to. But I was seeing all these houses, like everything was moving so quickly, because when I started, it was 2006. So that was back when you had like COVID times, but back then where we were guessing closing dates and things were coming in at like 80,000 over, and you're going, how did that happen? Like what was that? But it was also a time where nobody really went anywhere else. There was very like few, probably estate agents at that time. Like I worked in Cadsall Street in Hamilton. It's like estate agency row. It's like, and you'll know places like that wherever you guys are. And I loved it. And I had just within 6 months, I had passed my qualification, and I had a manager that just totally believed in me, and she pushed me for every opportunity that was going. And quite quickly, there was like a bonus structure within Slater Hoggenhausen at the time, because we had like 40 branches. And I think I got sales consultant of the year, because there's been so many different roles within there. Mm-hmm. But for me, like every part of it, everybody's story, it was just so interesting. I just loved every aspect of the job. There was not one part of it I didn't like. And
do you think you would have been a good cop?
No. I'd have been hellish.
So that wasn't definitely wasn't the right career path for you. So the police, it was a kind of narrow, it was weird. It's weird how things happen though, isn't it? Like how that could have been your direction. But
I think
the estate agency was meant to be.
Well, I think at 16, like, because I've got a 14-year-old daughter, she's my eldest, but you don't know what you're want to do. And I think sometimes opportunities present themselves, but equally, like, I was going into the police because my granddad was in the police. Like, I never had I'd done my work experience with the police. I thought, no day's going to be the same, so I'll go and do that. And luckily, that was something that appealed to me anyway. It was no day was going to be the same. And now, 19 years later, I'm still saying the same thing. Yeah. Like I'm still in an industry. It's interesting,
like looking back at it now. So we're all parents sitting here just now. It's so difficult, isn't it, to like, you know, your kids. You don't want to put pressure on them, but you want them to have a bit of ambition as well. So, like, how do you feel things are going? Like, you've got a 14-year-old. So, does she have any clue what she wants to do?
Football player.
Yeah,
football player.
I heard the radio a few weeks ago as well that the number one most dreamt about job, it wasn't a policeman, fireman, all the stuff that we grew up as an estate agent now.
Oh, really?
Which was completely unheard of. But I think that's probably due to the popularity of shows like Selling Sunset, whereas I suppose when you got into it, you were just looking for a wee job to keep you going for a few months, whereas there's quite an attraction to it now, isn't there?
Well, I think back then, so this was when I wanted to be a valuer, because that is my job role. You know, in the estate agency, there's lots of different roles. My job role is to win the business. And back then when I looked at it, these were guys that were running about in Audi TTs. It was a glamour. It was everything else. These were the breadwinners, but it was all guys. It was never women.
Right.
That's
so
interesting as well.
women were always the ones like, and I make no secret of this to any of my clients, but they meet me and I might be the first person that meet me in person for like valuing their home and explaining the process. It's a team behind me that keeps everything going and actually want to deliver. And I think for me, that was very apparent then, that the guys just brought the properties on, but it was actually the women that done all the hard work behind the scenes.
Sounds like it's a common theme in probably most families, I would say.
I think in most dynamics, this is exactly the same.
I think that's really interesting, because you were talking about, like, was that 19 years ago you were saying you first started? So looking back on that now, because obviously things have changed hugely, you know, what was the kind of like office environment you were saying there about, you know, the guys in the suits and the Audi TTs and all that? Was it very much, did you feel quite intimidated when you first started as a kind of, you're obviously a junior going into that environment? Like, how did you kind of react to that?
So back then, I think that nobody really went elsewhere, particularly in my area, other than Slaterhog and Howison.
Right.
And I think the change has happened, and I'm glad it's happened, but there was a lot of big egos. And some of it is still there, I think, with other people. But I think, like, back then, I remember, even for myself, thinking, I want to be like them, and always sort of worrying about the next step with everything, like trying to get to the next step in my career and everything like that. But I was once described from, then bear in mind, these were like £1 million houses in Bothwell at the time, because that's what they got. And I remember one time I was dealing with a client on the phone, so I never had that sort of office environment where I thought I was beneath anybody or anything like that. And I think it was my outlook on it, where she described me as a yuppie. And I was like, oh, that's a term of endearment. And I was like, no, it's not. Like, see, when somebody had actually explained what it was, I was like, oh,
somebody
wow.
called you a yuppie?
Yeah.
One of the
No,
clients?
a client. Uh-huh.
A client?
Mm-hmm.
And that's just how she perceived you from, what, meeting you or speaking to you on the phone?
Speaking to me on the phone.
Right.
Bearing in mind at that point, we probably had the majority of the market share, I think, back then.
So was there a bit of arrogance?
Oh, yes.
Then about, because it was like, you're dominating this patch, like nobody else can touch us.
Yeah.
So we are Slaterhog.
I think most people knew the valuers, and they've obviously went on to do really well in their own fields. Like, they're still in the business that I worked with. Like, who I worked with then is still who I'm out against now. But there was, like, you had the sales consultants, which was me, and I would be dealing with all the new inquiries. And then you had the negotiators who were dealing with all the offers. Then you had the valuers. Like, at one point in our branch, we had 18 members of staff.
No.
Now, looking back, I was like, where did we all go? There's part-timers that were coming in. But bearing in mind, this was times before computers, like, where you were able to get
Before
your database. It was
systems
T-cards. It was like going
manual.
through all the T-cards to get everybody's details.
Right,
So,
okay. And like, obviously, like, looking at it now, we've seen this kind of huge kind of growth in the sort of independent estate agents now, haven't we? So the likes of the Slaterhogs and all that, which I think they all kind of merged together, didn't they, underneath was it
Connells.
Countrywide? And
So
then
it was Countrywide and then Connells,
Connells.
yeah.
So it kind of like bought over, and there's all these acquisitions, and it's very corporate now, I'd imagine, where it's all just ran from like head offices and all the rest of it. But that's obviously, they've kind of almost kind of sort of died off a little bit, and then you've had this huge growth of the independent estate agency, as obviously where you're attached to now. So why do you think that sector has grown so much, and there's all these kind of just personal brand estate agents now? What's it that people, why have things changed?
I think the business model of what it was before is no longer required. Like, look at everything that we do now. Everything is more or less online. Like, everything we do, chat, like holidays, cars, like everything's so accessible, and it's just the industry has changed massively from what people are looking for now. Me personally, like I seen that change and wanted to move with the times rather than just sitting in that high street branch and having my own sort of specific area. And even looking back, like your social media and everything else, like I'm only a year and a half into this. I'm not like been here for 5 years or doing videos since, when was it you said that you were doing, since 2000 and whenever?
15, 16 now. So I know what you're saying there about things have moved on and we've got technology and everyone can go out and do videos now, but why is it that I almost feel like that people are veering away? If I want to sell my home now, I don't really want to go to one of these kind of stuffy corporate agencies. I want to go to someone like, you know, that's got creative ideas and that's really out there on social media like yourself. Do you know what I mean? For me, that's attraction. So why is it they're not doing social media videos and all that? Because it's obviously working, isn't it? It works for people and they can obviously see that. But you know from the inside, how is that perceived within the corporate world, going out and doing that sort of stuff?
So I think that you'll see a lot of the corporate agents doing that now. I think that came into play after, like, you see how successful people are.
Right.
Like, even for me, if I looked at who my competition was before, like I always say this, but Upload Abode stood out to me as an agent because I could see how they were working differently. Like, Paul put himself out there in terms of the coming soon videos and everything else. Now you'll see the what's happening, and I'm only talking about Lanarkshire as an area, but everybody's doing coming soon videos. You'll see that we put our face in front of the videos as well. Like, people feel like they know me before I step in through the door. Mm-hmm. So if I'm going out against 2 corporate agents and then you've got myself that's gone out and they're following me in social media, they already feel like they know me. And part of that, what you'll see is, like, a lot of the people that I look at as good estate agents in my area, and that's taking Upload Abode out of it, is people that have started within the corporate side of it and had so many different restrictions in terms of what you can do and everything else. My mind was blown when I left because I was like, oh, there is so much to learn here, and I have only just scratched the surface in terms of how, one, we advertise homes, 2, the social media side of it, and also the information that we give people as well. Like,
you can get as creative as you want then with, like, your Upload Abode, whereas you're maybe being restrictive in a corporate environment where you can only do X, Y, and Z, and this is where the limitations are. Yeah,
absolutely, and down to how you advertise homes as well. Like, look at the difference now where you can see what people are buying into and how people are moving. Like, advertising a home, like, if you've not got a floor plan on your that's criminal for me. But it's all the things that we do. Like, everybody has a virtual tour, whether your house is worth 40,000 or 400,000. The process for us is the same, but the plan changes for the audience that I'm trying to attract in each and every home. Like, I'm not going to advertise a 4-bedroom home and call on first-time buyers. It might be, but I'm going to attract it towards getting the family attention. And you don't have that in the corporate side of it. You're very restricted in terms of surveyors, you're restricted in terms of your photography, you're restricted in terms of, like, your area, what you can and what you can't do. I went into countrywide lettings, and from the lettings division I could go to 4 different branches. Like, that was where my referral area was. But if they came to me when I became a valuer and wanted to sell, they were then put into another branch. So they never had that personal service. It was always just the sort of what's the word I'm trying to look for? It was always sort of passed around, or what was so many different rules.
And at what point in your mind, how many years did you last in that environment, or how many years did you work in that environment?
17
years working for the same company.
So I started with Slater Hogg and Housing. And at the time, I wanted to progress. And then what happened was nobody really left at that time. We were not the sort of corporate side that they are now. So I left to go to Clyde.
Right.
And I had a short stint in Clyde. I was a sales negotiator in there. And then I left to join lettings and went to Countrywide.
Right, okay. And then what was it in your mind that because obviously it's quite a big change, because you get quite comfortable, don't you, like, in your job, and what was it in your mind? Did you see an advert or for the job, or what was it that sparked your decision to start looking for a change? Because if you're doing lettings, you've now gone into sales. You did sales originally.
Yeah.
But what was going through your mind? Were you unhappy at the time?
I love the team.
Right.
But I think when you're in that environment, you're just a number rather than a person, and sort of there was nobody really developed me.
You wanted to feel a bit more valued.
Yeah.
Aye.
Yeah. The change for me was a good thing, but it was terrifying as well, because like when I tell people my story and let them know a little bit more about me, like I'm a single mum, I've got 2 kids. Financially, it's just me that's responsible for those kids.
So you've got a 14-year-old and what age?
12.
A 12?
Yeah,
Aye.
soon to be 12-year-old.
So you jack in your job to go and try something new, a different company where you're not comfortable. It's quite a risk, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, of course. And it was terrifying, but at the same point, it was more terrifying being in the same role for the next couple of years. So that made me, and the minute that they uploaded Board advert come out for a Valier, like I was supposed to send this covering letter, my CV went in straight away. Like I was like, this was the job for me, and there was no.
Why did you think that at that time? This is the job for me.
Because there was nobody else that I would have went to.
But
why
did you like them as a brand? You hinted about you'd seen Paul, who's the owner. You'd seen him go out and do these cool videos. And you thought, I want a bit of that?
No, it wasn't quite like that, but I felt like I knew them.
Right.
So even from all the and I get this feedback quite a lot when people talk about Uploader Board, is even Paul and Charlene, our husband and wife, they've been married for like over 20 years. Like how they are together on camera, I was like, oh, we're only a small team of 5. We're not like a huge like team of 15 or 20 or anything like that compared to other people. And even seeing them on social media and everything they were doing, I was like, I wanted to be a part of that. The team, not being in front of the camera. A smaller team,
like you feel kind of more valued almost.
Absolutely, of course.
So the social media pulled you in to Upload a Board originally as well.
Interesting. Made me like them.
Yeah.
Like I think you do get a feel for people from what they show, and some people can do it really well. And you've got like, I remember the first video that I spoke to Paul about was his bloopers video, and I was laughing my head off when I seen it, because I was like, that shows me that you're not afraid to take the mick out yourself. Like, and it made me want to be a part of that. And bearing in mind, like in my industry, particularly in my area, I've worked with half the valuers that I'm out against now, and it was for going out against Paul was always like, and he still winds me up to this day about it, but I never ever won to him ever. Like I never got the house over him.
How many's on the team at Upload the Board now?
5,
right? So if I walked into as an outsider, right, and I walked in, I mean, without obviously, I know you've probably got a lot of friends previously from Slater Hogg and all the rest of it, right? But if I walked into an Upload the Board office and then I walked into the Slater Hogg, would I feel a different vibe?
Yeah.
What describe to me what I would feel?
Do you know what I hate? Is when you walk into anywhere and everybody just looks up at you. Like it doesn't matter what we do, like you will be welcomed into our office, somebody will come up and speak to you. It's not just about me and Paul being in the videos as well, it's the full team. You'll see Charlene, you'll see Kirsten, you'll see Casey, who's our apprentice, you'll see everybody. And it's a completely different atmosphere when you are walking into it, because our office, even from our office, like we've got the big flower wall with say yes to the address, but it's not anything that's clinical or makes you feel like you're walking into like the dentist, for instance. Sometimes that can feel like that.
I don't know about you, Stephen. Like you obviously deal with a lot of estate agents and that as well, and letting agents and stuff like that. But times when you walk into these offices and it's just like a lot of time they don't even like acknowledge that you're actually there, and then the reception you do get sometimes is like you're an inconvenience, or like what are you doing in here? Do you know what I mean? So that straight away, those first impressions like hit you. That's the first thing. If I ever opened up an office, it would be something similar to what you just described there. You would have it drummed into all your team that whoever walks in, you greet them, meet and greet them, get some sort of chat going with them, have a laugh, be, you know, I mean, sometimes it must be frustrating if somebody walks in, they're not, you know, you think they're a bit of a time waster or something like that, but you just never know, because
you don't, and you never know who you're going to meet at that point as well. Like everybody should always be treated the same, but my desk is at the back of the office, but if somebody walks
the last
in,
one to get to.
I get up and walk and introduce myself. I'm like, hi, I'm Vicky, how can I help you? Like it's just those different things, because how many people do walk into estate agents and think,
do you ever
like
get
lost, like where you're
The funny thing
going?
about it as an investor is you're walking in these estate agents to buy properties, but at some point when you're going to sell a property or flip some in your portfolio,
%1,000,000.
then you think back to, what estate agents if I went in and bought from over the last 5 years, which one would I avoid? And you actually struggle to find one you'd want to go to because you're like, well, they were all pretty fucking shit, actually, to be fair. They were all stuffy, corporate.
Any corporate ones that I've walked into recently, and I go to pick up keys and stuff like that, they all just seem dead miserable. I'm like, you guys are miserable. You must hate your job.
The thing is, I find the independent ones that are probably that bit bigger a team, like maybe they've got 5 or 6, 7 people in there, I find them a bit miserable getting as well now. It's like they've almost, it's like as they grow, they slip into that corporate, we must comply to this lifestyle.
I think for me, the uploadable ethos and the story behind them, like Charlene's background was banking. She worked at one of the biggest banks in London. So for her, it was more about customer service and the actual whole experience. And I totally bought into that because there was parts of, you'll see this in any business, parts of it falls down and it naturally will fall down at some point. Like it doesn't matter what you can try and control it, but there's something that you just can't, and it's being able to just acknowledge it. And there's some calls that I listen to Charlene on the phone and I think that was a great call. And it's just like admitting responsibility or saying sorry when things go wrong.
When you say calls, you mean like dealing with customers, like dealing with clients?
Dealing with clients. Yeah, of course.
Right. So if you learnt quite a bit then from that, what's their name again?
Charlene and Paul.
Charlene, Paul. I know Paul because I've seen him on the videos, but Charlene I've not seen much of. Does she not do as many videos?
No. So it's a funny story because obviously they're husband and wife, and they won't mind me saying this, but you've got Paul and then you've got Charlene who's the boss. It. That's like Charlene. She is the boss. She is the boss.
Sounds like your household, Nick.
And it's like, so Charlene and Kirsten are negotiators and they're absolutely fantastic at what they do, but really likeable people as well, and normal. I think this is what we miss in this industry. Is it's nice to just know normal people.
I think people get that confused when property, just thinking that it's about a property, it's about this house, it's about this product. It's never about that. It's about the people. It's just the people you're speaking to the whole time. And if somebody can make that just by being a plausible and nice person to you, that just makes that experience that you want to do it again. I
think sorry, on you go.
I was gonna say, do you get, now that you and Paul are quite prominent on social media and all that, and got locally, you were explaining that you're quite well known and stuff like that because the videos, and they get like 250,000 views and stuff like that. So do you ever get people phoning up requesting you or Paul and stuff like that? I'm wanting Vicky and I'm do you know what I mean? Is that kind of thing? Because people, like you say, people kind of know you before you set foot through the door.
So when I first started, and obviously I was brought in as a valuer, which Paul's role was, when they used to phone up for valuations and they would be like, oh, I can send Vicky out to you, and they would be like, oh, is it not Paul?
Right.
And they'd be really disappointed in that. Whereas now I think we've got the equal sort of balance. But
is that something that you spotted yourself, or did he encourage you to do it? Did he say get yourself on social media, get yourself on camera, let people know who Vicky is, or did you just go, this is the new way, this is what's working, I'm going to do it?
So I seen that working for him, but I was terrified to go on social media at first. If you look back at some of my first videos, it's almost taking yourself out of it. Every time that I go into a video, it's about the house, it's not about me.
Yep.
And then that's my, I have the same enthusiasm for a £40,000 house or the £400,000 house. The job is to showcase that as much as possible. But when I look back at the first videos that I'd done, I was so nervous. My hands were going, I looked like a 90s rave dancer with my hands going like nothing else because it was terrifying. Whereas now, when I'm doing a video or Paul's doing a video or anything like that, it's very much a case of, right, what we're saying, right, okay, let's get this organised, and I don't bat an eyelid. That's what's
somewhat
so
when we
strange.
Started the podcast. I mean, if you look back at episode 1, 2, 3, if you wanted to go back, then we didn't have a clue.
I'll avoid myself that embarrassing.
We were so didn't have a clue. Came across terrible. It was stop, start. Conversation did not flow. Yeah. But now we're 4.5 years in with the podcast. It's now as we're just talking here, so we're just sitting having a chat, and things are flowing a lot better. So you soon get out of that comfort.
Did you force yourself to get out of that uncovering this? Just keep doing it. Just keep showing up.
at first when the videos were going up, because people knew who they uploaded, I wouldn't share them.
Right.
I was like, Kirsten's just joined Uploadaboard. Like, we've worked together for the past, like, since we started. And I said to her, I was like, the videos work. I was like, you obviously, she was like, I don't know if I want to do them. Like, I feel really nervous at it. And now she's like, the last couple, because we've been so busy, I've been like, Kirsten, you need to go out and do it. And she's like, she knows it works. She sees behind the scenes side of it as well. But putting yourself outside, like, your like public speaking as well. Like, I do your guys presenting at the Edinburgh one, and see the first time that I stood up, I was terrified. Now I'm like stoating up and down the room, like, it's fine.
You get yourself out your own head though, don't you? I think
if
you just get in your own head.
Definitely.
No one else gives a shit what you look like, say, speak, whatever.
And I think the more unpolished you are as well, it comes across just so much better, doesn't it?
So much more genuine, I think.
Yeah, and
I
it's
think
hard
when someone
to do.
becomes, I think when someone develops a personal brand and they become polished, they almost become too polished or too fake. You lose interest in them.
Yeah.
So,
how long does it take you to get ready in the morning? Because every time I see a video from you, you're always got like hair's all amazing, makeup's done, you're always looking great. All your
Truth, 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
I swear
no
to
way.
God. I've got my own TikTok. People are like, how do you do your hair? I was like, listen, busy mum, I need to be in the heatless curls. I've actually done videos on how to do them just to show people. Curl my hair because I get 3 days out of it, so that I don't need to be doing it every morning. But honestly, like, nothing. No, 20 minutes.
Got any kind of secrets to getting organised then? As a single mum then with two kids, like, what's your routine like? Share us some parental tips then for myself.
For what's coming.
So how do you lead? Because obviously you've got, just try to get you in here today. You're like, I need to check my diary. I'm here, there, everywhere and all that. So you've got a busy life. You've got the two kids to sort out. What, for the parents listening out there, what are your top tips to try and organise your life?
I don't have any sort of secrets to the success of this. Like, I think especially for you people with younger kids, and I don't know how old your children are, but you survive for the first sort of 5 to 7 years. You just get by and you look back and I'm like, how did I even do that? But my kids are obviously, they're organised in the morning themselves. Like, we do.
Do you iron your kids' clothes?
Yeah.
You do?
Do it the night before. Yeah.
That is a game changer, by the way. Doing it the night before.
I need to be organised the night before because
Stephen's
the morning.
Laughing. He's never picked up an iron in his life. He's
Lucky
like,
Stephen.
Right, so I speak to, like, I was doing it the other week, doing the ironing. My mate called me. He's like, I'm just ironing the kids' uniforms for the morning. And he's like, no. His wife said, I won't mention the name, but she's like, she does that on a Sunday. She does it all for the week. I'm like,
by the way, hats off to these women.
Aye.
Hats off to these
I was
women.
getting it stinking when Maya FaceTimed me when I was in Vegas. I ironed my shirt for going to the UFC 300, and Maya was like, look, Mum, Dad's ironing. And Joe Kelly, ironing.
You ironed a shirt for UFC 500?
Oh yeah, when I was out in Vegas, I was like, that's
one shirt.
One shirt to obviously
In the
crease my
hotel?
back. So I was like, yeah. But I got called out on it by my 8-year-old daughter. I thought, all right.
Do you know how to work a washing machine? Like,
in the rentals. Test them.
See, the thing is, I have to be organised, and it's various, like, I can't control my diary, but outside my life, I can try and control it a bit better. But obviously, I've got the help and the benefit of having my kids. Like, Freya, like, we can be organised for dinner. It's just a case of getting, even down to having, like, a slow cooker. That was a game changer for me because it was like, my life is a constant 100 miles an hour. And it's even down to, like, after work, my work doesn't stop. Like, I'm then doing 4 football runs a week.
We'll get on to that because you've put a bit of that up on your social media as well. No, first of all, before we move on to that, it's like, do you know what? We struggle, and there's 2 of us, with the kids. I can't imagine. So do you have a good network? Do you have family that help out?
Yes.
Yeah, that's got to be.
Yeah.
Do you plan your social media schedule out?
No.
See, I found we're talking about preparation and doing shit on the Sunday night. I was meal prepping because I've taken a wee bit more of a role in health and fitness and my well-being. So I'm approaching 40. So I was preparing sweet potatoes the other night, and I was getting the piss ripped at me for doing all that and putting my pills and my supplements in the one tub. But see, a few years ago when I was building the social media brand, I had to prepare my content on the Sunday like I'm doing this. But see, now I don't fucking do it. So I wondered, Ben, if you have got 4 or 5 videos to record? Do you try and prepare on a Sunday, write down what you're doing, script it and go for it, or do you just wing it?
No, we just wing it.
Like it.
There'll be houses that we put out on a Sunday evening because they'll get more
Traction,
views, more traction on there. But realistically, like our videos go out specifically 3 days before or closer together if we need to get them all on the market. But even like this week, the marketing team behind Uploaded Boards, me and Paul, like and I can't take much credit for it because a good 90% of it is Paul.
That's time consuming though, isn't it? Like, especially when I'm looking at your videos and going like,
there's hundreds of them.
No, there's hundreds of them, yes, but there's 2 of them at that property because sometimes I see Paul in the mirror filming you, and I'm like, there's Paul. But having 2 people out, I'm thinking about resources. If I'm running a business and I've got like 2 staff at the one property and all that, that's a lot of time taken up when that other person could be at valuation or something like that.
So you're right. Like my job is obviously 9 times out of 10 it will be valuation appointments that I go to. But the way our marketing works is one person will arrive and we'll slot it into the diary where we can. So like this morning I was out to a valuation in Darnley and then shot over to Shawlands to do one of the social media videos. I come at the end just as Paul's finishing so he can then go to the next one, and then I'm here.
Well, a wee tag team.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, cool. You got a system, something that works for you. And I
It
suppose
works
if
for
it's
us.
like a lot of it is kind of, if a lot of your stuff's like localized as well, then it makes it easier.
We'll always try and manage the diary as best we can. Like if I'm out in a certain area, like Lanarkshire's probably for me, South Lanarkshire as well. Like one day you could be in like Blackwood, Lesmahago, like within an hour you're having to be in like the other side of Glasgow or something like that. It doesn't really work like that.
Right.
Like you're looking at when the marketing's getting booked in and you're trying to tie it in with where you are going to be at that appointment. And if we are out first thing in the morning, then we'll try and do 2 back to back, and then my day will be filled with valuations.
In terms of marketing then, as an estate agent, where do you place the importance of all the different sections of marketing then? Like, is it, like where do you put, like, if you were to put a list of like, what's the most important, what do we really need to nail here to get a good sales price and all that? I mean, I know it's all important, but video, description, photographs, social media, portals, like where does it all sit?
I think every part of it is important and you need to look at the bigger picture with it because one, like social media for me is huge, but the hardest part of my job is
does it sell the houses?
Yes, it does.
So somebody will see the house on TikTok and say, I saw that.
Well, this is what I was wondering, because obviously the pain point from a lot of estate agents and land agents is this price subscription for Rightmove.
Yeah.
Extortionate. So
I only found that out a couple of months ago. I was like, who would pay that? But then obviously it's important that you need it.
If you're nailing sales through TikTok, then when does Rightmove then adjust the prices accordingly because it's not as valuable?
Aye. Because you hear of estate agents. Sorry, I'll let you speak in a minute. I'm terrible for this.
So on you go.
So
keep going.
That is a really good point, because I listen to a lot of estate agency chat and all that. Down in England, there's a guy that does YouTube videos, Chris Watkins or something like that, and he talks to estate agencies and that. And a lot of them down in England, they're like, we're not paying Rightmove anymore. We've built up enough brand locally on the social media channels that we're basically ditching our Rightmove. Do you know what I mean? So like, that's interesting.
So we got January and February, I think we looked at it and the traction coming from TikTok was higher than Rightmove. But it's also a big risk if you come up, because Rightmove is still number one, irrespective of where you go. People's preference will change in what they want to do, whether they want to use Rightmove or Zoopla. For me, down this area on the market, it's not a big website. Like, it's not somewhere that somebody would search. And I think when you're looking at everything in terms of what's important, the most exposure for that home is going to get you the result, because the hardest part of our job is getting viewers, which sounds ridiculous when you think, well, that's not that hard, but it actually is getting the right people through the door. And the more exposure that you give it with, bearing in mind the social media side of us starts 3 days before it actually goes on Rightmove. So all we're doing at that point is starting to qualify those buyers and bank the viewers. So when you go on Rightmove and Zoopla, that process starts for us again, and you'll notice it
almost
from
like the soft launch for it going onto the portals.
Yeah.
So you found a wee kind of model there that works for you.
Yep.
So you've got that all systemized.
Yep.
So
see, by the point of the first viewing slots, and the important part for this always is giving people time to think about it, especially with the changes in terms of mortgages, the payments and everything else, is the more time that you give them, rather than if I put a property on today and I allowed the first viewer out, they were desperate to get out and they were going out tonight, they're probably not going to be buying that house because they've not actually had time, unless they're so specific with it's that house, not had time to process it and think, right, is this the one for me? So even down to the days that we look at when's the best time for viewings? Like, when is that? Is it going to be a Saturday? Is it going to be a Friday? Is it going to be one of those, like, so that we can just get to the point where between 10 and 2 on a Saturday, that's when most of our viewings happen. And at that point, if you are really interested in that home, you've got one person, you're viewing it as a very small part of the decision whether that home is for you, because you've seen everything online. You've made that decision with how it looks. So going out and you've decided, yep, this is for me. You're walking out and somebody else is walking in, because we've got it to that point where it's not just one viewer that we're dealing with. It might be, but 9 times out of 10, you'll have maybe 6 or 7 people going through that door. And the feedback that we get is, one of the girls took a call through the week was, oh, we've seen this house coming on with uploads of boards, and she was like, I just sighed, because she was like, I know how you guys operate, like, you need to be quick. And the truth is, it is, but everything is so well planned behind the scenes. So when we get to that point of viewing stage, if we have 6 or 7, we're looking at offers at that point, and that's where the speed of it comes from. But the plan is, like, everything is well planned before it to make sure that happens.
I mean, they can't all be like that, surely. I mean,
longest property I've got on the market is 3 weeks.
Really?
Yep.
Cool. You're obviously good at your job.
We chase everything. It's not just sitting waiting for things to happen. It's actively chasing it. You look at everything, you'll know from the minute that property goes on the market how it's performing. Like, we put one on Coatbridge yesterday. She's going to be busy this weekend. In fact, we're going to be busy. We're doing.
What about reduced prices? Have you had to do?
Yes.
Reduce. So, but that's obviously part of the strategy of being a good estate agent. You need to know when that is the right time to have that conversation with the client, don't you? So at what point would you suggest that the price be reduced?
2 weeks. I think if you're getting a flurry of viewers, because realistically, you probably have about 6 weeks to get the maximum price for your home. Because if you look at it from an investor point of view, if you see something that's on the market for 4 weeks or longer, you're going to be thinking the same thing. There's a deal to be done here, or there's a bargain here. And that's not what I ever want for any of my clients. So you have to be actively chasing it. And it's even down to things like pricing strategies. Like on Rightmove, like if you're on, your home report's 210,000 and you're on offers over 19995 or something like that, Rightmove appears in the highest price order. I want you to be the first, but also want you to be the lowest at the other price bracket. If you're on at 19995, you're only appearing in one search engine, like one search category on Rightmove. Like, everything that we think about behind the scenes helps make that happen.
Nah, that makes sense.
This maybe gives me confidence in estate agents running into the next crash if it comes. Because I just feel like estate agents were like, just went through this blur where the last fucking week. Like
anybody can be an estate agent, or anybody
totally.
list it
on Rightmove. Like, you can flick through pictures. You'll view it. You'll make an offer. No one chases you. No one phones you. No one negotiates. It's fucking easy. Like, you could be selling plant pots for all, and like the people that are selling properties could be selling anything. They're not doing a sales job. But listening to Vicky almost kind of sparks my interest that maybe estate agents are actually going to survive this.
But you're absolutely right, because COVID was crazy for everybody, and that's where that started, where you didn't really need to do much, which I think, like, if you're looking at it from a Rightmove point of view as well, like coming off of that, you probably could have during that time, because if you made your own sign and put it in your garden, you were going to sell for 20, 30,000 over home report. This is the bit that I enjoy the most, is the negotiation side of it. How many people do you think that they can still go way under home report value and get it? Like, this is what surprises me. See, when I attend your guys the podcast and I hear 25% under home report value, and I was like, how?
You see what estate agents
how do you get that?
You see what estate agents were targeting.
Yeah. And by the way, I know I might as well target them myself, because I'm like, I don't really get that. And I also one thing that we notice is we don't really sell for under home report value. If anything, it might be a smidgen under, or it might be like that. But the main aim is always to try I'll never know what anybody will sell for. The way I operate and the way I tell our clients is we'll do everything here to make sure that it launches, and then aim for home report, and anything above it's a bonus.
Sorry, what did you say there? You'll never know what anybody will sell for?
No.
What do you mean?
Well, you could have 3 houses in the same street and every one of them will sell for a different price. You just don't know. You don't know how it's going to perform when it goes on the market.
Yeah, you can't predict.
No.
You can't say to the client, you will get this price.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
And there's so many other factors that'll influence that.
Yeah, absolutely. Your
you'll say, look,
audience, what's going on,
we'll
price.
get you the most possible, obviously, the best possible, and we'll try our best.
Is it, I always find this, like, from estate agents, is it always the best price though? Because I think there's a lot of traditional estate agents just limit themselves to, I'm trying to get the best price for my client, but if I'm offering you 20% less and this woman wants to sell in a week's time or 2 weeks' time, that's maybe the best solution for her.
No, there's so many factors that goes into to accepting an offer. Like some people it'll be just because they like that person. Some people it'll be situations. Some people it'll be, and it's really difficult. And you're seeing a flurry at the moment of people listing their houses, and I think it's because it is getting harder now. People do need to put themselves in a stronger position, and getting yourself on the market is terrifying. Yes, of course. But it is going to, if I present 2 offers to a client and I'll go, this one hasn't got anything to sell, but I've had a look at this house, most of the houses here have been selling within a week or 2, you'll be fine either way. They could be both the same value, but what one, and the likelihood is that mortgage could still fall through, and there's the risk there. It's trying to eliminate all risk as much as possible.
Do you do viewings?
Yes.
Aye, personally?
Yeah.
Aye. Question is, you know how you get a lot of kind of control freaks that think that I know my house better than anybody, like I want to do my own viewings. I mean, I can sell my property better than you can, let me do the viewings. Do you think that has a damaging effect sometimes?
No, I love when owners do their own viewings, and it's not anything about my timescale or anything like that, but what we see is like 80% of my audience is women. It never drops below 75%.
Well, that's good, because I'm glad we've had you on today, because 95% of our audience is men. So we need to try and pull in some more women.
But you're right. Like, see, women buy a house based on how it makes them feel.
Emotions, feelings.
Yeah. You guys will go in and go, is it a garage? Like, pick this up in a lot of different properties. It's shape, size, everything
honestly,
else.
You're speaking my language. Like, I teach this for a full fucking day in my workshops, and everyone's like, why did you pick that baby pink there? And why did you pick that ghost tap for my flip? The flip's never about what the taste I want. I just study what the female demographic want. They're the decision makers. They're going to buy with their emotions, and I'm going to dress that property, finish that property to her. Yeah. And everyone's like, that's sexist. It's fucking true. The woman's deciding who buys that, if the family buys that house or not.
See when you said about the majority of your buyers or inquiries are women.
No, the audience.
So the audience. Across the socials.
The analytics that you get across the socials,
Okay. What about when it actually comes to, like Stephen was saying, about the actual decision, the decision maker? I mean, often they'll come along as a couple, but who's ultimately making the decision? When you're doing the negotiating?
Don't you lie.
Try and say that with a straight face. Who makes the decision in your house?
See, to be fair, our first house, our first proper home, we lived in a flat, I'm not counting the flat, but our first proper house, she didn't see it. I went and saw it. And in fact,
it must have been a good choice if you're still married.
I didn't even see inside the house. It was a repossession. It was on my Countrywide. And I went round the back. So I couldn't get a viewing for some reason. And I just went round the back and I looked in the back window. And this is I'll offer on that, and I think it's because obviously I had the property experience, and she just placed that trust in me, and I was like, I was actually looking at it as more a deal rather than a home, but it actually turned out to be a home for quite a while. But so there you go. I did make that decision,
and I do as well. But then I think the difference is we're in property.
Property.
But I said last month I stood up, or the month before, because the thing is with like market updates and everything else is, mine doesn't change that much. Like lettings, you'll know yourself. There's always a change in there somewhere. There's always something like that. Same with mortgages. So for me to provide a market update, it's boring. Like,
is there not some months where something
I don't do a market update. I'll talk. But what I'll be saying is, this is how you earn more money with dressing your homes. And it's like the things that we notice where we're having the conversations in branch. do people care about the 7-year-old boiler that's in a property, or are they caring about the 300 quid cushions on the couch? There's 300 quid cushions on the couch. Mental.
It's mad, isn't it?
But also, I'm trying to buy a house right now, and I want I want a project. I don't want to pay for the project. Like, I am on the other side of it. We're like trying to be emotionless out this. See, the minute that I see a house coming on in the area that I'm looking and it's really lovely, I'm like, oh, this is the one for me.
So
just about 200 grand too much.
So the emotions, you can see it from now. You can see it from the buyer's point of view as well.
It's how I advertise. And I always tell everybody this is, aim for the women and the men come with them. And it sounds as if I'm not valuing men, but it's not that.
No, it's not.
It's the first 4 photos, or even on Rightmove, will be the best 4 rooms that I look at in the house. Kitchen's a big thing. And even for me, like, when people tell me what they're looking for, like, I'm not just there to list their home. I'm helping them find something else as well. And when they tell me what they're looking for, I am the conversation to the wife, or somebody that I'll be sitting there and they'll be like, I want a nice hall. Or what's the other ones that I like? I want space for dining in my kitchen. I want a separate room for my kids to go in and destroy in the playroom or something like that. And then I'll direct the same question, and it'll be, I want a garage.
Aye.
I want a garage. I want a garden.
One of my flips at the moment now, there's a cracking pond in the garden, and they make a cool, really fucking cool feature. Really smart. There's nice bamboos in it and everything. And I'm thinking, I'm going to make a feature that I'm going to stand out. And then one of the girls in the office said, kids, women are going to go shy away from it. And usually when I go for like decisions like that, I go and ask my wife. I went and asked her, what would you do if you seen that pond? She was, I wouldn't go and view it. And I asked somebody else as well, and the woman was like, wouldn't go and see it. Doesn't matter what you've done with the house. Soon as I saw the pond, I know that's a danger to my kids. They might fall in that and drown. And I thought, fuck.
It's
my
how the mind
perception
works.
of this is a cool feature to no, let's just fucking cover this backfill this pond and cover up. And I'm like, but people would go, aye, but the pond feature, and I would do that. I'm like, no, listen to your target audience.
Yeah.
I'm going to eliminate 50% of the people that are going to go out and view this property just by leaving that pond because I think it looks nice. Take yourself out of it. If the woman's decision maker and it's going to be a family home.
But it's also so important that like knowing your target audience is huge. It's it's the part of this job that makes it easier. If you aim it towards the right audience, you're going to get the result. Yeah. But even in that, like for me, like there's still very little females in the role that I'm in. Still, like I think there's maybe in the area that I'm in 4, 5, which is
Ours are becoming quite popular with young females in the roles now. I don't know if again it's the popular TV shows now that's making it an attractive career to go into. But then it's funny when you have these conversations with those girls, you're like that. It's
nothing like that.
Aye, it's not like that. Or you're saying you're trying to speak to them and you're like, I'm needing that at 30% below market value. And they're like, look at you, like you've got 2 heads. What? Folk would accept below market value, like below home report. I'm like,
I think the great thing about you being out there and doing your videos, and I think that you were saying there's not a lot of women. I think that will inspire a lot of young women come through, which I think is a great thing. So
my thought process is completely different. I think, and this is only through experience of dealing with different values, it's different to them. Because it's not just about the quick win of the business, it's the whole process that happens after it. Like, I say this to a lot of people, but I'm not a listing agent. I'm not just listing and forgetting about you or anything like that. I'm taking you through that whole process. Like, we aim to deliver, like, every single time. There's not one property that we come on and, you think, right, okay, this might be a struggle. But on the flip side of that, I think there's no agent that's going to do a better job than us in this property. So it's always coming against that and thinking, right, okay, so what do we do in this one? And that's what I love about it, is having that sort of creative control over it.
The problem solved mind to go find who's there's a buyer for everything. Yeah. So find that buyer for that one.
Yeah. And you need to remember as well, like, not everybody moves for good reasons. There's more bad reasons right now than there ever has been. And it's trying to put yourself in that position and say, how can I help with this? Like, what can I do? Because it's very easy to just put the property on the market and sell it. But what happens with the next step? Like, people will never forget, and this is as big in business as anybody else, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So likewise, when you say, like, you go into a corporate agent and you're getting this sort of like, they look depressed and everything else, like, it's more about, it's what's surprising to me now, being an independent that actually care about that, is the amount of people that come back to us that have bought through us, not sold through us, that buy from us or have a good experience with us, even from the point of being a buyer to then come back.
There's probably 5 or 6 really good estate agents in Dunfermline, or ones that dominate the space I live in.
Yeah.
And there's one that's head and shoulders above the rest. They're the corporate one of the. I mean, I say corporate. They maybe got a team with 10 or 12. I don't know. I have never, the amount of properties I've bought and sold over the years, for like 19 years, never went near them. I've picked up keys from them, I've bought from them, never went near them to sell a property.
Why?
Because of the corporate stuffy one. And you think if you just fixed that, you would have had my business rather than funding other companies or businesses.
Kind of came up with some fresh ideas.
Or you just had a nice friendly face to come in and greet you, come in and made you feel welcome, but it was not. It was the churn of staff, or no one's there for a career, no one's there for talking about customer services or what this
staff turnover's got to be a big thing. Because
what does this guy want? Oh, he's actually want a career out of property and he's grown a portfolio. Maybe he's one we'll actually pay a bit of attention to and give a bit of time and make sure we can give him a little heads up when something's coming to the market that might suit him. But no fucks given. And even to this point now, I never go near them. Yeah,
very transactional rather than the service side. I know.
Talking about the videos again, because we all love that. We're all sitting here, we all do videos and all that, and I think it's a great lead generator for the business, and you're obviously bought into it as well. But we all know that, you know, there's a lot of rockets out there, there's a lot of nut jobs, so, you know, you're putting yourself out there, you can make yourself a bit vulnerable sometimes as well. So have you had any kind of strange sort of situations that you've been in, or any DMs that you've read and gone, what the hell, or any comments?
We've got a laugh at, it's not so much like, I've never been like trolled or anything like that. Like I'm quite fortunate enough. And to be fair, like I feel like if people are trolling you, it says more about them. Like it's a delete and block situation and various different things.
So you've got a strategy for that? Delete block.
Yeah, like because this is the thing, like it's just wasting your time responding to things like that. But we do laugh where like people on TikTok are, because of how I speak, people assume that my name's Becky.
Right.
So we've got a bit of a fan club with Becky's bots, and it'll be like something happened. And I don't know, it was one video in particular and it kind of grew arms and legs overnight, and I was like, what's going on? And it was all these strange requests to buy my tights. Like it was unbelievable. And you're going like that. There was a few comments and we were all, because all of our phones are linked up to the socials, and I was like, make sure you delete every single comment like on there, like delete them, get them rid of them. Like,
do you see that as is that a kind of overstepping the mark? Is that where you would kind of draw the line? Yeah.
What, selling our tights? Is that what you're really asking?
You wouldn't
depends just, how much for it.
Because I've had some terrible abuse on TikTok. I've let them run because they get loads more views. And you know what? The way I think about it is, see if these people are sad enough to entertain in that sort of chat, just let them. Who are they anyway? Who are they? Their lives are so shit that they need to pry on others to get their kicks, right?
Yeah.
So just let them be miserable, hide under their bedsheet.
But you're right, because look, that's why I said it says more about them. Like you have to be thick-skinned, especially if you're putting yourself out there.
Aye.
But you've also got all the positives that come with it as well. Like you're putting your face in front of a video. Like as I said, like there's probably not another valuer that does that.
So do you delete comments quite regularly?
If they're really bad, yeah.
And do you get quite a lot of that?
No.
I don't delete in. Just let it fuckers go.
You said that Paul, the owner, he had quite a lot of abuse to start with, didn't he?
Oh yeah, well that's what made me, that kind of like settled me a little bit, because at the start of doing TikTok, and there wasn't that many kind of property people doing it. I think I was the kind of guy doing lettings and landlords and stuff like that, property boss, and then your boss as well, Paul. Yeah. And I looked at his comments and he was getting some absolute dog's abuse as well. So I was like, do you know what? He's getting it. I'm getting it. We're all getting it. Everyone's in the same boat. It's nothing personal. It's just these sad little fuckers that will try and bring you down. Do you know what I mean? So let them be and just let them.
You're right though. It does help the algorithm and help push the videos through the roof, doesn't it?
Aye, that's why I let it run. I was like, me and my 12-year-old, we have a laugh. Like I go, check this out, like this idea here. Let's just tag him along a wee bit, and then we get another 5 comments, and then it goes.
If the comments are rude, then we'll obviously delete them. If it's just a bit like an opinion,
you just have to have a personal, image.
It's different.
I guess you're trying to maintain some sort of professional integrity as well. So you've got to think, this is actually going to be damaging to us if people go on this and see.
We get so much more good comments than bad, I would say.
Yeah, I'm the other way, because like everyone hates a landlord. Do you know what I mean? So like, who likes a landlord? Do you know what I mean? So we're the scum of the earth.
Not
the hatest of the leeches of society.
But see now, do you get as bad comments, or was that something that sort of over the years it's sort of stopped?
It's always been it's always been, and it will continue. And I think that's part of the reason why I've come off TikTok a little bit, is because it is so negative. It does kind of. I say I just like ignore them, but it does kind of drain on you a wee bit, because you're like, wow, this is coming from somewhere, and there's a large part of society that actually think this, you know. So,
but then in the knock-on effect, the algorithm and everything else that you're getting the views, is it that somebody else looking at it going, oh, if they can comment on that, then I'll just do the exact same thing. Where if you're deleting it, you're not giving them the breathing space to do it either. And I'm talking about they have to be really rude comments for us to take them off.
If they're dead rude and all that, then 100%, I can see why you would do that. You don't want any like sleaze or anything like that. You know, that's just not appropriate.
Yeah.
And you've got to draw a line.
Yeah.
But no, I get the comments. It is usually just like stupid stuff, like they use the wee emoji, which is like the virus. Do you know what I mean? That's quite a common one. You're just
But I think it's like we have a laugh with our comments as well. Like, of course we see everything and you know, see the comments coming through. Like Paul and I, obviously, like we're in the videos all the time. Like whoever's listing the house is back out to the video, etc. Or I'm filming him or he's filming me. And there was a comment last week, it was Paul who put up a video and somebody put, "Where's Vicky? Bring back Vicky," or something along those lines. And these ones are funny and we'll keep them up. Yeah. And equally it'll be somebody that'll comment on me and like, "But where's Paul? What's he doing?" Like,
I think because I've always said this as well, I always have a laugh, because you walk into an estate agent's office and you'll see all the thank you cards and all that, and the flowers and the chocolates and all that. You know, you guys are doing, because it's a transaction, you're getting a result for somebody. So there's a lot of you're perceived as a kind of nicer profession, as opposed to this current environment where we are going through like the highest rent increases that we've ever experienced, and people are struggling. You know, a letting agent and a landlord, you know, you worked in lettings before. Yeah. I'm sure you probably experienced a bit of it as well. You know, a letting agent is not a pretty job.
No. And I think it's because of so many, like even from when I started in lettings to what the like legislation and the changes and everything else. Like Kirsten was talking about I've been out of lettings now for about 5 years, like, and it's something that I know experience in, but I could go back to it no problem. But see, when I see the rise in rate, rising. Like the rents, like 2-bedroom house will be like £750, and I'm like,
that's cheap.
Well, so I'm talking about if you live where I live.
So
like
lettings or sales? Then I'm presuming you much prefer sales.
So I always chased which market was busier. So this was always something for me that I loved, the chase and the thrill of sort of how fast paced the business was. So when I left Clyde to go to Countrywide, I'd never even spoke to anybody about lettings before in my life, and I was put in this role where I was the only one in it. I don't think anybody actually wanted to take the job, and I went in and I loved it from the minute that I sat down. And that was always what was really busy for me, and like I loved it, and growing the business and everything else, and sort of keeping your occupied, and it was great. But realistically, when's the two markets ever been as at the same point? Because when you had the recession, you had sales that sort of fell, but lettings sort of boomed at that point.
It's a good point, actually.
And you've never had them like being in like even keel. So
you think Upload the Board will do lettings eventually? No. Is there any chat of that?
Potentially, but I think right now it's just our business is growing and growing. Like the thought of taking our eyes off the ball to open up lettings would be
a distraction. It's a whole different beast.
Yeah.
The last question that I wanted to ask you, because we're running out of time. In fact, there's about 10 other questions that are in my head that I never got to ask you, but we'll just need to pat them.
It's okay.
Because we're out of time. You've got an appointment to get to. So for the listeners that are listening to this going, I'd quite fancy being an estate agent, or they follow your videos and going, I'd love that job. because kind of you do bring an element of glamour to it. It's got to be said. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, it does look quite a fun job when you're doing it. I know it's not always like that, but for the people who want to get involved, what's the tips?
I think for me, learn as much as you can. Like, I started in this industry when I was 16. My best friend, who's still with me along the time, at the same time as me, was the office junior. Like, I always think and look at the people that are a success in my area. They've started at the very bottom to then come up and go out on either their own or being in quite high positions. And I think learning that way makes you so much more humble and sort of being able to be a lot more relatable to people. And it's looking at what you see and what looks good to you and approaching, like, for me, corporate, no, they had great training, they've done everything great that way, but they're not going to teach you the actual ins and outs of how the industry is changing. Like Casey, for me, she's our apprentice in there. Casey's fired through 50 instructions this month. Like, she is
really?
50. We've just finished the month this month, 50 instructions.
What's that? And that's another question that's just popped into my head. What's a good month for you? What do you aim at?
This is our strongest ever month since
for
we
you
started.
Personally, like how many houses would you be looking to?
35 minimum.
A month?
Yeah.
What are you making roughly each sale? $1.5 grand or something?
It depends on the value of the home.
Like, it goes on percentage or on a fixed fee?
No, we're fixed, but it goes on the value of the home and sort of if we need to do viewings or like all of these different aspects.
So you're making 30 grand a month. That's all right, Steve.
That's quite interesting.
Jeez, I might look at getting an apprenticeship in a estate agency.
But for me, like, the best way was learning everything. Because that made me the valuer that I am today, and it's trying to get into trying to get into that position where, you know, do you start off as a negotiator and then go into the valuer role? Like, for me, I want to see more women in this industry.
By the way, those numbers are impressive. That is really good. Hats off to the whole team.
Yeah, for a team of 5, it's something I'm proud of.
Absolutely. Upload the board, absolutely ripping it up in the market. Disruptors.
Yeah.
So I would say to you, just kind of lastly as well, see, for those younger folk that are looking at it, you know how there's a lot of these self-employed estate agency models and stuff like that? Have you ever looked at that, or do you have an opinion on how that works for people?
I think that it's great, and I think there's a lot of good, for me, like, massive respect to the people that are self-employed and maybe doing like 5-10 instructions a month, and that for them, that's manageable for them to see from start to finish. I think what works for us is we have a great team. And without doing these numbers, you need to have that behind you. And like, from a self-employed point of view, I don't know necessarily somebody coming in with no experience that can go into that and make a huge success of it. Just in my experience, I would tend to start with somebody and have a look at how that business operates, and then maybe go in and, you know, like Casey, who's 18 and now wants to be a valuer.
Yeah, I guess it all depends on where you are in your life as well. Because if you've got a bit of life experience or business experience, or you've done something else that you've been quite successful
You'll
at,
be good at
you could probably transition into a self-employed model. Like, we know, like Fraser Kelly, who came in to do our market update there, who also helps us with the networking events as well. Like, he's gone from a totally different career into being a estate agency with a self-employed, and he's doing really well. Yeah. But like you say, if you're a young person totally starting out with no experience,
it's so easy, I think, like, to be an estate agent with no experience in terms of like the opportunities, because people want that. But also, like, I think you need to really have a passion for it as well. Like, it doesn't matter like what house I'm going out to, like, everything I'm consistently learning. Like, I'm consistently learning about investing and sourcing and developers, like all of these different things, because you need to be like having a look at younger people and like the whole online estate agency and everything else. You still need to have pride in what you do. Like, some of that will work for some people and that's fine, but I think you still need to have that mentor. Yeah, definitely.
Brilliant. Oh my God, we're 2 minutes over. Guys, if you want to reach out to Vicky, where can they find you? Where's the best place to
upload a board? You can get me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok,
that's where I got you.
YouTube.
No comments about the tights, please.
No, please don't do that.
And thanks very much for taking the time. Really appreciate it. Me. Keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a great job.
Yeah,
thank you. And thanks for being part of the team at the podcast as well.
I love it.
Thanks a lot, Vicky. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye-bye.